Hi guys, for this lesson, which is lesson 11 in Eureka, we are learning a new skill since we are now done with comparing numbers. We're still considering place value, okay? And we're done with rounding, or we have successfully completed our units on rounding, comparing, and place value. So we were ready to move on to adding and subtracting larger numbers. Whole numbers, but there are two things that I want to discuss first before we even start, because Eureka has a different way, a little bit different way of regrouping when we're adding numbers. So we are going to talk about the different ways that we regroup for Eureka math, and we're going to talk about what a tape diagram looks like, because we'll be talking about a tape diagram in our lesson today. In our lesson today, we're going to be using place value chart to help us add and also regroup. And so you'll see you need to make sure you have your place value chart with you so you can follow along with the video. The first thing we're going to do is look at how we add the Eureka way and how we regroup the Eureka way. So if we have a number like 57 plus 24, okay, we know that we're going to start adding in our ones place, and we are going to look at 7 plus 4 as our first, the first two digits we're going to add together. Okay, so 7 plus 3 I already know is 10. So if we add one more, that's going to give us 11. So 7 plus 4 is 11. That means we need to regroup in order to find our answer. So when we regroup the Eureka way, we are not going to carry our number up here, our extra digit up here. We're going to carry it right here. So that way we can really see that this is the number 11. Okay, you can very clearly see that this is the number 11. Whereas when we bring it all the way up here, that number kind of lost. This carried number that we're putting into the next higher place value kind of gets a little bit lost because it's just it's an ambiguous number up here. The word ambiguous means kind of random. Okay, so now we can see very clearly that this is representative of 11. So then we're going to, in the tens column, add 5 plus 2, which is 7, plus 1, which is 8. So our answer here is going to be 1. Okay, so you'll see the Eureka teacher regrouping on the line or underneath your numbers, and you will also notice it on Zern. We're regrouping underneath your numbers. So I just wanted to explain why that is a thing. The next thing I want to show is a tape diagram. So if we're adding numbers like this, our tape diagram is just going to be a long bar that shows what we're adding. Okay, so here we have some number plus some number is going to give us a total of some number. Okay, we know what goes in these boxes. We know 74 is going to go in one box and 67 is going to go in the second box. And then our total is going to be whatever 74 plus 67 is, which will be 7 plus 4 is 11, and 7 plus 6 plus our carried 1 is 14. So our answer total is 141. Okay, this strategy comes in handy when we are doing problem solving, because it requires you to think about the actual problem and what pieces of the problem you have and what pieces of the problem you need to solve for. So this is what a tape diagram looks like, and we'll be practicing with those throughout our lesson as well. Through our lesson, I might pause the video to explain things, and I might pause to do an extra question here or there. So just be patient with the video. If she's going too fast, I'll slow it down for us. But I think this video goes at a really good pace throughout, so make sure you're pausing your video when she asks you to pause, and you're completing practice problems along with the Eureka teacher, because that is the best way for you to practice since we are not together in person.
Hello, fourth graders, and welcome to lesson 11. I'm Ms. Bertuman, and today we will be adding multi-digit whole numbers. Here's what you'll need for today's lesson. Let's get started. Please say the problem with me. 3,134 plus 2,493. Let's draw a tape diagram to represent this problem.
So here she's showing her tape diagram. So just like I just showed you, she's showing you her tape diagram for this problem.
Think, what are the two parts that we know? Yes, the two parts that we know are 3,134, and the other known part is 2,493. The unknown is the whole. So I'm going to represent this in my tape diagram with a bracket above the tape diagram, and also with the letter A to represent the unknown quantity.
So she's using the letter A here as an unknown quantity. So earlier I used a question mark as our unknown quantity, the thing that we don't know. So A here is considered what we call a variable, which we will use in algebra when you get into algebra and starting to learn algebraic equations. Okay, but right now it's just the thing that you do not know, or the answer. So the A here stands for the answer.
Anytime we have a letter that represents the unknown number, we call this letter the variable. I'm now going to move into my place value chart, and I'm going to draw in 3,134 using place value discs.
So think back to our lessons on the first and second week of school when we drew place value discs in our place value chart. She represented the number 3,134 in her place value chart using place value dots. So in the hundreds place, in the thousands place, she put 3 place value discs or place value dots. In the hundreds place, she put 1. In the tens place, she put 3, and in the ones place, she put 4, which is representative of the number that she's representing, right?
3,134. Now it's your turn. I'd like you to pause the video to do 2 things for me. First, I'd like you to, just like on my board, use place value discs to draw in 3,134. Then, below that, draw in, using place value discs, the second addend, 2,493.
So on your place value chart, you need to draw what she drew, the 3,134, and then she wants you to draw the 2,493 below it. So you need to pause the video right now and go ahead and do that.
Do that now. Ready? Let's begin adding. 4 ones plus 3 ones equals 7 ones. 3 tens plus 9 tens equals 12 tens. I can bundle 10 tens, just like so, to make 100.
So think back to when we were doing our place value chart. We would bundle together 10 to make it go to give one more to the next higher place value. So in this case, we're bundling together 10 tens, which is equal to 100. So she put a place value disc in the hundreds place.
And I have 2 tens. I can show this in writing over here, like this. 12 tens.
Notice how she regrouped on her line. So she regrouped underneath the numbers to show that this is the number 12. There are 12 tens in this number, which is equal to, when you add together 30, or this 3 in the tens place, plus 90, or the 9 in the tens place. So 3 tens plus 9 tens equals 12 tens, or 30 plus 90 equals 120.
100 plus 400 plus 100 equals 600. 3,000 plus 2,000 equals 5,000. Please read the equation in its entirety with me now. 3,134 plus 2,493 equals 5,627. Therefore, our variable A equals 5,627. Read the problem with me. 40,762 plus 30,473. What I'd like you to do next is to pause the video here and draw a tape diagram to model this problem. Be sure to label your 2 known parts and then label the unknown whole with the variable b. I'll be here when you get back.
So you're going to pause the video and draw a tape diagram. This time, instead of labeling the unknown part as A, like we did in the last question, she wants you to label the unknown part as B, because a variable can be any letter of the alphabet. It could be your favorite letter, like maybe L or H, or it could be any other letter that you could possibly think of in the alphabet.
Take a moment now to compare your tape diagram with mine. Next, we're going to draw the first addend into our place value chart. Please do this with me. Next, let's draw the second addend into our place value.
So I want you, because that went really fast, the first one, I want you on your own to draw the second addend in your place value chart. So pause the video right here and do that. And then when you're ready, unpause.
Chart. Let's now start adding. 2 ones plus 3 ones equals 5 ones. 6 tens plus 7 tens equals 13 tens. We can, with our 13 tens, bundle 10 tens Just like this. And when we regroup them, we now have 100. We still have 3 10s here. And then our 10 10s is now here in the hundreds column. We can mark it in our addition problem like this. 7 hundredths plus 4 hundredths plus 100 equals 12 hundredths. Again, we can regroup. So here I have 7. Here I have 3, making 10 hundredths, which is then regrouped. And we now have 1,000. Here we still have 2 hundredths, and here's our now 1,000. And of course, we can rewrite it in the addition problem like so. I have 1,000 and 10,000s now. 4 10,000s plus 3 10,000s equals 7 10,000s or 70,000.
So I just want to point out real fast that when she carried her numbers here and here, she also regrouped in her place value chart. So you see 2 examples of her regrouping and bundling a group of 10 and moving it to the next highest place value. So we have 2 bundling scenarios going on over here and 2 regrouping scenarios going on over here. So make sure that when you're still using your place value chart, you are reflecting both of those in the traditional algorithm, which is what we have going on over here, and you're showing your regrouping by bundling in your place value chart.
Read the equation with me now. 40,762 plus 30,473 equals 71,235. Therefore, our variable B equals 71,235. Here's our next problem. 207,426 plus 128,744. This is what I'd like you to do. You're going to pause the video here, and during that time, I want you to draw a tape diagram to model this problem. Then I'd like you to draw in both add-ins on our place value chart. I'll be here waiting for you, and we'll compare our work, and then we'll add together.
So go ahead and represent both of these numbers as a tape diagram and in your place value chart, and see if you can start adding them together. Add them together and see what you get, and then unpause the video so we can see what our Eureka teacher got.
Take a moment now to compare your tape diagram and your place value discs with mine. Okay, the next thing I'd like you to do is pause the video one more time and start adding the 2 add-ins. We'll compare our work afterwards. Ready? Say the equation with me. 207,426 plus 128,744 equals 336,170. Therefore, our variable C equals the 336,170. 170. Let's read this word problem together. The Lane family took a road trip. During the first week, they drove 907 miles. The second week, they drove the same amount as the first week, plus an additional 297 miles. How many miles did they drive during the second week? Let's think about the information that we do know so far. What information do we know? We know in the first week, they drove 907 miles. We also know that in the second week, they drove more miles than the first week. In fact, they drove 297 more miles in week 2 than in week 1.
So this is where our tape diagram is really going to come in handy for us, because this question is very confusing. And when we get into word problems, they end up becoming quite tricky to solve, okay? Because you don't always just take the two numbers and figure out what you're supposed to do with them. You need to really, really think about what the question is asking, okay?
What is our unknown in this case? What we don't know yet is how many miles they drove total in the second week. That's what we're trying to figure out. Let's begin with the tape diagram with the information we do know. We're going to start off with a tape that represents 907 miles. We also know that they drove an additional 297 miles in week 2. So I'm going to extend this tape diagram. And this represents 297. What does the tape diagram we've just drawn now represent? It represents the total amount of miles that they drove in the second week. Let's now include that bracket at the top with the variable m for miles. How can we determine how many miles they drove during the second week? Yes, we can add 907 plus 297. Go ahead and on your own, do this now, and then when you get back, we'll compare our answers.
Go ahead and pause the video and go and add your two numbers together to see what you end up with for how many miles they drove the second week.
We'll compare our answers. 907 plus 297 equals 1,204. Therefore, m equals 1,204. Take a moment now to write a statement to answer the question of how many miles did they drive during the second week. Please read it with me. The Lane family drove 1,204 miles during the second week. Excellent work. Let's now move into today's assignment. For your Lesson 11 assignment, your must-do problems are here on the screen. Go ahead and set a timer or watch a clock for 10 minutes to complete these problems. If you happen to have any extra time, feel free to work through any other problems on the pages. Today, fourth graders, we worked through adding multi-digit whole numbers. Thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to check in with your teacher, and of course, we'll see you soon for another Eureka math lesson.
So in this video, we worked through adding on a place value chart. We added numbers together without using a place value chart, and we used a tape diagram. You're going to use all three of those things in your practice problems today. Okay, make sure that you're representing exactly what the question is asking you to represent. So if it asks you to draw a tape diagram, you need to make sure that you draw a tape diagram. On Google Slides, you can always use the shape tool and the text box tool to put your tape diagram together, and use the text box tool to help you with adding your numbers. Also, make sure if you need it, you're using your place value chart on your own. You don't have to represent that in Google Slides, but use it as a tool to help you if you need it. And if you want to do your work paper pencil and you want to take a picture of it and insert that into Google Slides, you are more than welcome to do that, because I know it's going to be challenging to do adding and subtracting on your Google Slides. Okay, so if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to your teacher.